Hello YouTube, Ronan Kazi here with another video doing the Pentagon today. I'm not sure when the Pentagon came out, Pentagon and DARPA. I think it came out when Coney Island. I think it was part of that patch, but I'm not positive. First part of the Pentagon is kind of a wide open. You kind of fight through a building, blow open the door, and then you go out into a courtyard where you have a wide open fight and you knock out a drill. And it's similar to a lot of the starting fights in the division in that they try to make it, the first fight kind of dissuades you, I would say. They're kind of demoralizing because it's like, man, this is going to be a slog. If you think about Legendary Capitol, that fight, getting on the field, getting up to the Capitol steps, it is a pretty tough fight. I think it's easy after that. District Union, that first fight, if you don't have a good group, you get pushed back. You know, you got that first wave, and then you got the drones, and then you got the chungas, that stuff. And Roosevelt Island, that first that first area can be tough. So this is a design of the Division 2 kind of legendary, and these later heroics kind of have that same feel to them. And for sure, we're going to run into a mission here in heroic Pentagon, which is going to be one of those kind of mission defining setups. Again, fighting the Black Tusk, I think this build I got's pretty primo for that kind of stuff. At least someone in your group should have it. Someone in your group should have EMP. And we're going to come into this first fight here. It's just an easy fight. We're on heroic. I'm used to playing legendary. I'm going to be super aggressive in these parts. Again, the pulse is going to knock a dog down, and I normally would not get this close to a chunga, but I just feel really great. Like it's not going to be a problem. And again, this technology build is going to, technician build's going to, you eat dogs for breakfast. You pulse them, they stop, and you do more damage and everything too. So that's the one thing. Sorry about the dogs. I was recording this before it got so bad I had to just redo the whole recording because they went nuts. So this next fight is similar to that last fight in that it's going to be a bigger room, similar situation where you're fighting a group of guys, same setup, like they're in layers towards you. On this, I always go to the left. I go as far left as I can. I go as far forward as I can. I engage in there. You see the pulse. Then I'm going to hop over, throw the traps, and then go hide, and then help take everything else down. Again, I've talked about time after time about shaping the battlefield, and that's part of whether you're a tank or crowd control support. You're thinking about shaping the battlefield so that the DPS can really... someone brought this point out in the comments in one of the other videos. You know, you're okay with your position as long as you're not in the DPS way. I agree with you 100%. So you want to make it where, as a tank, you want to make them not firing at the DPS so the DPS can just unleash their fury. And if you're crowd control, you just want to keep the DPS, or you want to keep the mobs from, you know, getting too much on the DPS to where they have to worry about, instead of doing damage, they have to worry about survival. So in the Pentagon, now we're going to reach the defining fight, I think. We're going to go through a couple of little places here, but we're going to reach a defining fight for the Pentagon. When I first started playing heroics, when I kind of started playing more of the division, started getting good, I ran skill-based DPS. And that pretty much can get you through any content. It's still a really reliable build. Is it the optimal build? Not necessarily, but it's a good generic. If I was telling someone, you know, what build should you build first, I'd say a skill-based build, just for this simple fact. On the skill-based pieces of gear, the roll, when you get +1 skill, that's always +1. It's never a half, so it's easy to get better items or then modify them or re-roll the attributes on them to what you need with skill-based ones than it is with reds, because reds you need 15% and you got to get, then, you know, if you can only change one thing, if you don't get 15%, you know, that's why you're looking for God rolled stuff. So we have the countdown, we're getting ready, we'll talk about more of that later, but when you're running this in a skill build, you're like, okay, it's gonna be no problem. In the old days, I'd set up some turrets here, and I'd have a drone, and I would fight from up here. Now, my strategy is, I know that the boss fight is gonna be on the opposite end of where I enter the fight. So I'm making my way there, because that's how I'm gonna fight. That's how I'm gonna set this fight up. And again, you've seen a lot of these videos I have where I'm pushing on their spawn. Now they don't all spawn in this one place, but I know where the boss is gonna spawn, so I'm gonna push to there. And you've seen that in the control point videos or anything else. If I have the right build and right setup, I wanna press the spawn. It keeps everyone close. It helps me spread with creeping death. It helps me spread the status effects. It helps the DPS focus their fire. If someone's using their ultimate weapons, you know, if they have a grenade launcher or something, they're smoking it. So we're at the part where we need to be. I get my special ammo. I throw out my traps in front of the door. And when this bozo starts talking, I'm going to pulse him. Because remember, vile jammer. So I already put damage on him. There's going to be people that come off the roof and jump down into the area. I have creeping death. I have the Scorpio shotgun. I'm going to start spreading effects all over the place. Now, there's a jammer right in that room stopping my skills. It doesn't delete your traps. So the traps remain even if you can't use their other skills. So that trap's going to be effective for maybe 20 or 30 seconds. In the old days, this guy would just terrorize my group. Now, I'm like, we're going to put this guy down as fast as we can. Also, what you realize, there's gaps in the coverage of these jammers where you can get a skill off. And again, I'm going to do the jammer pulse there. So working on the boss of the mission. One of my partners takes care of that thumper. There's another one on the second floor below. I'm not going to worry about that. I just want to get the boss down because it makes this fight really easy after that.
System back online.
And again, think about when you first get in here, you first get in a room and then you just set up camp right there. And that's not always the best. It's kind of the default strategy everyone has if you haven't played it. But once you've played this, you should move on to the next thing. And so this fight used to be a tough fight. But it's not if you push on the boss, knock that boss out. Sometimes you'll have dogs come out, but again, dogs are nothing if you got a pulse. Eventually you can do it. And so your team, they've knocked out the third one, and I think there's one more pulse. In 4-man, there's one more pulse. And again, the jammer pulse build is also effective with a Scorpio. A Scorpio, creeping death, you get the same effect. You're leveraging your status effects and the ability to spread it all over.
System disrupted.
And really, if you have a weapon DPS, you're trying to turn the game that favors your strategy. So you're trying to turn that where you have clear fields of fire, or the people are stunned or crowd controlled where you can just lay the fire into them. If you're a skill build, you're moving people into your area. Hey, I got a level on Shepherd, so congratulations to me. So that's kind of defining battle. If you look at some of my earlier videos and I have earlier shorts, I'm always fighting those copters. This again used to be a horrific fight if you didn't have the right skills. You know, if you had people that were maybe a little bit under geared and they couldn't put out damage, this copter is going to eat you alive because there's tough. And as you'll see, there's a couple things that we can do. In the old days, I was in groups where, as we you know, got past the initial release of everything and all this stuff, you'd kill this copter before you got off of this area. Now they've kind of changed it. See, it's fighting in the backward spot. I pulse it, we put it down a little bit. It was always weird, if you were in a group and you killed this now, you would expect that it wasn't gonna, you know, spawn on the next part. It just spawned on the next part. So really there's no benefit to killing it, really. And I'm not sure now if it takes some of this damage over to the next thing, because it gets out of way before we can do too much damage. We'll take a look. There's also, in this area, there's also gear when you go to get to the next part. If you go left or right, there's places where you can get more gear. A lot of groups are just going so fast, you skip past that. I always used to, until someone showed me there was other gear there. So now we're heading out to the last battle. Here's again where, excuse me, if you go to the left here, there's a case down there. If you go over to the right, there's some other junk down there, maybe some mats. And as you're bumping up your expertise, you know, for a while I didn't care, but you need a dump truck load of stuff to get your expertise to 20, from 19 to 20 especially. Even if I get pinks, you know, I'm getting that gear. All right, so here's this final fight. What I like to do is run all the way through. I've been in groups where some people fight from here. I like to run all the way through and pulse them about halfway across the bridge where I can reach everyone. Those guys start coming down and I'm running up right past them. They usually don't bother me. Well, they are kind of bothering me, but I always throw my turret up here because it's going to get the things over on the right. And I'm getting long stroked by a guy over there, so I stop. I'm going to get him, deal with him. I'm pulsing, and I'm going to take him down. But I want my turret up on that spot so it can get the copter and to get things on the right side of the field. And I know that that part of this platform is locked down. I don't think the copter has any damage from previously, so we're going to start all over at 0. Again, in this build, I have test subject. I like, again, on status effects, so I take Scorpio over Capacitor. Capacitor is a great weapon, but a lot of my builds need status effects, so that's why I always have Scorpio. Either to start like an ongoing so I can get that ammo, or in this case, if it's like Creeping Death, where I can just spread status effects to everyone. So we do a pretty good job on this and get it knocked down pretty far. You can see I'm taking some damage. I've talked to you before about not getting fixated on, you know, the boss, so people don't come up and get behind you. So I did that embarrassingly in one of the videos where I died when I was calling that out. I was a victim of my own call out. Once you click this button, they're going to spawn out of this little room across there. So you race over there and start putting fire on there. I'm pulsing them so I mark them, and now I'm just spreading it as much as I can. I'm counting on the other people to take care of everything on the right. Remember, I have the turret over there on the right. There's a helicopter loading people down. Again, my job is to keep this flank. Talked about that before. How you push a battlefield, how about keeping flanks. Unless you're in a group that's moving constantly, then it doesn't matter because you're going to make the enemy come to you. But I found on Pentagon, this last part, this is what I do. And that's the thing, they spawn from that door twice. So once you clear it out, they try to make you forget about it, but they're going to come back again. The other thing about the pulse, like everything else, it's not just doing damage, it's marking everyone where I know where they are. So imagine if you're running a group with directives, you can always put on no radar, because if you're pulsing all the time, everyone's gonna know where the enemy is. And I'll probably have a video on that, on like what directives, hi dog, no, what directives you should run and what kind of build you can have to, you know, obviously if you're going to do a tank build with a shield, you can run Pistolero because you're just going to use a pistol anyways. If you're using like deflector or something. So at this point, I'm trying to reach out and hit the copter. You can see it's down pretty far. And like I said, I think they've changed the dynamics of this a little bit, where you could really, I've been in groups where we just burn it down like in the first setting, first time we see it. Again, you know, the vial jammer build is, I don't even have to see what I'm doing. I'm just pulsing. I know I'm going to hit everyone around me with some damage. I'm going to keep pressure off of my team. Try it sometime. Go ahead, fire a shot in District Union in the first part and watch how they rush you if you don't put pressure on them. If you're in a group and you don't see turrets or things like that, they better have a ton of weapon DPS. Otherwise, those Johnny 5s are going to come right out that hole and jam on you, and everyone else is too. So here's Pentagon on Heroic. It's pretty good. That battle with that boss with the EMPs is tough if you're a skill build, but we went over that. Not a problem for us anymore. We know what we're doing. I appreciate all the love you guys, with all the people that are subscribing and all the comments and all the views. I really appreciate it. We're on our way. I think we're over like 210 now. I really appreciate it. Thanks everyone. Hope you enjoy your day. Ron Kazi, signing off.